The piercing ring of his phone dragged Cole from the murky depths of sleep. He groaned, fumbling for the phone, the dull throb of a hangover pulsing at his temples. "Mr. Evans, the limited edition timepiece you ordered last month has arrived. We were wondering when you might be able to. I'll deal with it this afternoon," Cole rasped, cutting him off. He hung up and buried his face back into the goose-down pillow. It was the third call this morning. The first two had been from his tailor and the Aston Martin dealership, both with gentle reminders about his outstanding balance. Sunlight streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows, outlining his lean frame. A few empty whiskey bottles lay scattered on the nightstand. A woman's Chanel jacket was draped casually over the back of a sofa. What was the name of that little Instagram model he'd brought home last night? Cole squinted, tried to remember, then gave up on the pointless exercise. 3 hours later, finally showered and dressed, Cole stood in his walk-in closet, selecting his outfit for the day. His long fingers brushed past rows of bespoke suits before settling on a deep navy Brioni. He paired it with a Patek Philippe Nautilus, a birthday gift from Evelyn last year, worth nearly $200,000. "Ms. Reed said this one suits you best," the housekeeper said, appearing at the doorway at the perfect moment, a detox smoothie in hand. Cole grimaced, taking the glass and downing it in one go. "Ms. Reed, Ms. Reed." Everyone only ever acknowledged Ms. Reed. In 3 years of marriage, he felt like little more than a handsome fixture in this home, his only function to accompany Evelyn to social events and play the part of the doting husband. Still, it wasn't a bad gig. Cole adjusted his tie in the mirror. The man looking back at him had enviably sharp features and the body of a runway model. At least Evelyn was generous. She never questioned his spending and never interfered in his private life, as long as he kept it from getting too messy. "What's on the schedule today?" Cole asked casually. "A 12 o'clock reservation at Jean Georges, a 3 o'clock test drive for your new car, and at 7 p.m. "Enough. I get it," Cole said, waving him away. He didn't need to remember these trivial details. Someone would always be there to remind him where he needed to be. At Jean Georges, Cole lounged by the window, flanked by 2 stunning models, up-and-coming influencers he'd met at a club the night before. One of them was gently stroking his wrist with a perfectly manicured red nail. "So, Cole," one of the girls began, batting her heavily lashed eyes, "I heard your wife is the CEO of Reed Industries. That's like amazing." A playful smirk touched Cole's lips. "What? You running a background check on me?" "No, I'm just curious," she purred. "A guy is hot, as you must have girls falling all over him." Cole didn't answer. He just signaled the waiter and ordered another 5-figure bottle of wine. The moment his Amex black card slid from his wallet, he saw the satisfying glint in the girl's eyes. "Mr. Evans, this card has—" the waiter began, his voice a hesitant whisper. Cole raised an eyebrow. "Is there a problem?" "The limit seems to have been." "Just run it." Cole cut him off, annoyed. "Put it on the Reed Industries corporate account, across the restaurant." A few business types shot disdainful looks in his direction. Their whispers drifted over. "That's the trophy husband Evelyn Reed keeps. Spends money like water. No idea what she sees in him." Cole ignored them, deliberately raising his voice. "So, wanna go shopping later? I heard Hermes just got a new shipment of bags in." Meanwhile, on the 38th floor of the Reed Industries headquarters, Evelyn Reed was poring over a quarterly report. She wore a sharply tailored black suit, her dark hair pulled back in a severe bun, revealing a face that was flawlessly made up but couldn't hide its exhaustion. A sharp knock broke her concentration. "Come in." The CFO, David Chun, practically burst into the room, his forehead beaded with sweat. "Evelyn, we have a problem. Sterling Trust just froze our B-round financing. They're claiming there's an issue with our collateral valuation." Evelyn's fingers paused for a fraction of a second before resuming their steady rhythm. "Explain." "They're saying the appraisal report for the Southside property we used as collateral is fraudulent, that we inflated its value. The capital chain is about to snap. Next week's vendor payments." Evelyn held up a hand to stop him, then pressed the intercom. "Get all senior executives to conference room 1. Emergency meeting in 15 minutes. Her voice was calm, but anyone who knew her well would have detected the faint, almost imperceptible tremor. After hanging up, Evelyn walked to the window, gazing down at the city below. The sun cast a harsh light on her pale face, highlighting a profile carved from sheer determination. At 10 p.m., Cole strolled into their penthouse humming a tune, surprised to find the living room lights on. Evelyn was home unusually early, sitting on the sofa with her laptop, thick stacks of documents spread out before her. Home early today? Cole tossed his car keys onto the console table and sat down beside her, a cloud of alcohol and perfume trailing him. Evelyn didn't look up, her fingers flying across the keyboard. There's a problem at the office. Cole yawned. What kind of problem could be that big? Let's deal with it tomorrow. Want a drink? I just got this great bottle from a friend. Cole. Evelyn suddenly snapped her laptop shut and looked him straight in the eye. The company might be going bankrupt. The smile froze on Cole's face. What? The capital chain is broken. The bank pulled our line of credit, and suppliers are calling in their debts, Evelyn said, her voice terrifyingly calm. Worst-case scenario, we could lose everything. Cole's mind went blank. Lose everything. What did that mean? His cars, his watches, his unlimited black card. The life he was accustomed to. Don't worry, I'll handle it, Evelyn said, misinterpreting his silence. She patted his hand gently. I'm just giving you a heads up, so you can be prepared. Cole nodded mechanically, forcing a smile. Of course. You're amazing. You can fix anything. But later that night, long after Evelyn had fallen into an exhausted sleep, Cole stood on the balcony, chain-smoking. His phone screen was lit up with several unread messages, invitations from the model he'd just met tonight. He stared at the messages, for the first time seriously considering a question he'd never had before. If Evelyn Reed really went bankrupt, what would he do? Cole was jolted awake by the incessant buzzing of his phone. He squinted at the screen, a dozen unread messages and 7 missed calls. This was normal for his mornings, but today's content was drastically different. Cole, is the news true? Is Reed Industries going down? Hey babe, heard your wife is broke? Need a shoulder to cry on? Winky face. Dude, you still coming to the club tonight? Heard they froze your black card. Each message was a needle prick to his temples. He shot up in bed, the hangover pounding with renewed vengeance. Ignoring it, he clicked on a Bloomberg News alert. The headline screamed at him, Reed Industries faces collapse amid liquidity crisis. Former Titan on the brink. The accompanying photo was of Evelyn being swarmed by reporters as she left the office yesterday. His fingers scrolled numbly down the page, through phrases like credit line revoked, suppliers halting shipments, and stock plunging 60%. Fuck. Cole threw the phone onto the bed and chugged from a bottle of Fiji water. He only then noticed that the other side of the bed was empty, the sheets perfectly smooth, as if no one had slept there. The sound of the shower was running. A few moments later, Evelyn emerged, already dressed for war. Her dark circles were stark, but her hair and makeup were impeccable. You're awake, she said, her voice raspy. Saw the news? Cole opened his mouth, but no words came out. For 3 years, he had never seen her look so worn. In his mind, she was always the invincible, indomitable Ms. Reed, even in their most intimate moments. How bad is it? He finally managed. Evelyn walked to her closet and tied a dark blue silk scarf around her neck, hiding a small bruise on her collarbone he hadn't even known was there. It's bad, she answered curtly, but it's manageable. I have meetings with investors today. I'll probably be late. Cole asked reflexively, do you need me to come with you? He regretted the words as soon as they left his mouth. He never touched company business. Evelyn never let him. The offer sounded hollow, absurd. As if on cue, Evelyn paused, giving him a complicated look. No, that's okay. You, just get some rest. Her phone rang. She answered, spoke a few brief words, and hurried out of the bedroom. Cole heard her giving instructions to the housekeeper, the ding of the private elevator, and then silence. Cole picked up his phone again, scrolling through the messages. After a moment's hesitation, he sent vague replies to a few of his most recent flings. It's complicated, talk later, the media is exaggerating, don't worry, I'll hit you up tonight. Then he dialed a number. Hello, Mrs. Davenport, it's Cole Evans. Are you free for lunch? Yes, just the two of us. At 12:30 p.m., Cole was seated in a private room at a swanky downtown restaurant, across from an impeccably preserved woman in her 50s. Mrs. Davenport, the billion-dollar widow of a real estate tycoon, had been one of Cole's most reliable patrons before he'd met Evelyn. "Cole, darling, it's been far too long," she said, her red-nailed hand covering his on the table. "I heard you got married. To the CEO of Reed Industries, no less." Cole fought the urge to pull his hand away, forcing a charming smile. "Janice, marriage is just a piece of paper. You know you've always had a special place in my heart." Mrs. Davenport chuckled, the wrinkles around her eyes deepening. "Still so sweet. Now, tell me, what can I do for you?" Cole leaned forward, lowering his voice. "Reed Industries has run into a little trouble. I was thinking with your connections, you might be able to introduce me to a few investors." "Oh," Mrs. Davenport arched an eyebrow. "I heard it was more than a little trouble. The whole street is saying Evelyn Reed is finished this time." Cole's smile froze. He hadn't expected the news to travel so fast. "Cole, dear," her tone shifted to one of pity. "You know I've always had a soft spot for you. If you need some spending money, I can help you out. But investing in Reed Industries? That's a black hole." A wave of irritation washed over Cole. "You misunderstand. I was just—" "Understand perfectly," she said, patting his hand. "When you figure things out, you know where to find me. But," she gave him a meaningful look, "not while you're still carrying the title of Evelyn Reed's husband." Cole all but fled the restaurant. Over the next few hours, he met with two other old friends, receiving much the same response. Personal handouts were on the table, but business investments were not. Single men were welcome, but married men need not apply. By dusk, Cole was slumped in a discreet cocktail bar, 3 empty glasses already in front of him. The bartender placed another whiskey on the rocks before him, and he downed half of it without a second thought. "Drinking alone, Mr. Evans?" A familiar voice cut through the haze. Cole looked up to see the well-maintained face of Arthur Sterling. Sterling was a notorious venture capitalist in his late 50s, his silver hair perfectly coiffed, his suit immaculate. The Patek on his wrist was twice as expensive as Cole's. "Mr. Sterling," Cole said, trying to pull himself together. "Fancy seeing you here." Sterling sat down beside him. "It's no coincidence. I came looking for you." Cole blinked. "For me?" "I heard Reed Industries ran into a spot of bother," Sterling said, swirling the ice in his glass. "I'm very interested." The alcohol in Cole's system seemed to evaporate. "You want to invest?" Sterling smiled. "More than invest. I'm prepared to acquire all of the company's debt, inject new capital, and restructure. Ms. Reed can even stay on as CEO, under my board's direction, of course." Cole frowned. Evelyn would never agree to those terms. "Which is why I need your help," Sterling said, his tone full of meaning. "Convince your wife. It's in your best interest. Once the deal is done, I'll give you this." He scribbled a number on a cocktail napkin and slid it across the bar. Cole stared at the figure, his heart hammering. It was enough money to keep him in luxury for years, even without Evelyn. "Why?" he asked suddenly, looking up. "Why are you so interested in Reed Industries?" Sterling's smile didn't falter. "Just a business calculation. Reed has a solid foundation, just a flawed strategy. I see its potential." Something fell off, but the alcohol had dulled his instincts. He vaguely promised to talk to Evelyn, then stumbled out of the bar. It was late when he got home. The penthouse was quiet, but a line of light seeped from under the study door. Cole pushed it open to find Evelyn slumped over her desk, fast asleep. Her laptop was still on, surrounded by stacks of files and financial reports. He was about to wake her when a photo on the desk caught his eye. It was her wedding picture. Evelyn, in a simple white dress, was smiling with a rare, radiant joy. He stood beside her, handsome and dashing, a picture-perfect Prince Charming. Next to the photo lay a document. Cole picked it up. It was an itemized list of Evelyn's personal assets being liquidated. Her jewelry collection, several properties in her name, even the collection of antiques her mother had left her, all stamped with a red soul. A strange pang, sharp and unfamiliar, went through him. He knew how much she treasured those antiques. They were one of the few connections she had to her late mother. In her sleep, Evelyn stirred, letting out a soft, almost inaudible whimper. Cole noticed for the first time that her eyelashes were damp. He stood there, frozen, a profound sense of shame washing over him. What had he been doing all day? Scrambling for his next meal ticket, plotting his escape, while his wife was selling off her most cherished possessions to save what was left of their life together. Cole gently placed the document back on the desk and tiptoed out of the study. He didn't wake her. He just went to their bedroom, grabbed a cashmere throw, and carefully draped it over her shoulders. Back in his own room, Cole lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. The number Sterling had offered flashed in his mind, but it was overshadowed by the memory of Evelyn's smile in their wedding photo and the look of exhaustion in her eyes that morning as she tied the scarf around her neck. He pulled out his phone, deleted the contacts of all his mistresses, then sent a text to Arthur Sterling. "Sorry, Mr. Sterling. I can't help you with this." After sending the message, a strange sense of relief washed over him. He had no idea what tomorrow would bring, whether Reed Industries would survive or what he himself would do next. But in that moment, he had made a decision that surprised even himself. He was going to stay and face the storm with Evelyn. It wasn't until the court-ordered seizure notice was taped to the front door of their penthouse that the reality of bankruptcy truly hit Cole. He stood by the entrance, watching as marshals inventory their assets, moving through the space as if he and Evelyn didn't exist. The lead marshal, a burly, red-faced man, waved a dismissive hand at them. "Stand back. Don't interfere with official business." "You're taking this car, too?" Cole pointed to his limited-edition Aston Martin, his voice cracking. It had been a birthday gift from Evelyn, one of only 50 in the world. He'd barely put 3,000 miles on it. The marshal didn't even look up. "All assets registered to Reed Industries or Evelyn Reed are subject to seizure." "But that's my car." Cole took a step forward, but Evelyn's hand on his wrist stopped him. "Let it go," she said quietly, her voice heavy with exhaustion. "Let them take it." Cole turned to look at her. Her face was terrifyingly pale, the skin under her eyes a deep, bruised purple. Her lips were chapped and peeling. She was wearing a simple white blouse and black slacks, stripped of all jewelry. The valuable pieces had all been sold off days ago. "Evelyn," Cole started to say something, but the words died in his throat. What could he say? "It'll be okay"? He couldn't even convince himself of that. With a roar that felt like a personal insult, the marshal drove his beloved sports car onto a flatbed truck. Cole watched it being hauled away, a heavy stone settling in his chest. "Cole," Evelyn said suddenly, "go pack your personal belongings. We have to be out of here tonight." "Go where?" he asked, bewildered. Evelyn's lips thinned. "I have a small apartment in the city. I bought it back in college. It's not under the company's name." Cole had never heard about this apartment. 3 years of marriage, and he was realizing how little he truly knew about his own wife. 2 hours later, Cole stood by the elevator, dragging 2 large suitcases filled with everything he could take, a few designer suits, toiletries, and his most valuable watches, which he'd hidden away without telling Evelyn. He looked back at the penthouse he'd called home for 3 years and realized he would probably never see it again. "Let's go," Evelyn said, pressing the elevator button. She had only one small suitcase, which looked even lighter than his. As the elevator doors slid shut, Cole saw their housekeeper, Mr. Gable, standing at the door, his expression pained and uncertain. The old man who had served them for 3 years didn't even get a proper goodbye. The apartment Evelyn mentioned was in an old, dilapidated building in a far-flung corner of Brooklyn. There was no elevator, and the hallway reeked of a strange mix of stale, cooking oil and mildew. By the time Cole had hauled his luggage to the 5th-floor walk-up, he was out of breath, his expensive leather shoes scuffing against the grimy carpet. He wrinkled his nose in disgust. "This is it," Evelyn said, pulling out a key and opening a faded green door. The apartment was even smaller than Cole had imagined, a tiny one-bedroom, maybe 500 square feet total. The furniture was sparse but clean, looking as if someone came to dust periodically. A small window offered poor light, the wallpaper was yellowed, and a prominent water stain marred one corner of the ceiling. "People can live here," Cole blurted out. Evelyn's movements faltered for a second. "It's better than the street," she said calmly. Cole dropped his suitcases and sank onto the sofa, wincing as a spring dug into his back. He yanked at his tie, frustrated. "So what's the plan now?" Evelyn was already opening her laptop. "I'm contacting some investors. I have a new project." "A new project?" Cole cut her off. "The company just went bankrupt, and you're already thinking about a new project? We barely have a roof over our heads." That's precisely why we need to get back on our feet as quickly as possible, Evelyn said, her voice unervingly cool. I've already had the lawyers start the bankruptcy proceedings, but we need an income. Cole stood up, pacing the tiny living room. An income? I don't even have a car. Do you have any idea what my friends are saying about me? They're all waiting to see me fail. Then you should prove them wrong. Evelyn shot back, her eyes sharp. Cole, this is not the time for a pity party. A pity party? His voice rose. Do you think everyone is as cold-blooded as you? To lose everything and just carry on working like a robot? Evelyn closed her laptop and took a deep breath. I haven't lost everything. I still have my contacts, my experience, my reputation. That's real wealth, not the cars and the houses. Cole scoffed. Easy for you to say. Do you know what people are saying about you? That you're a Nepo baby who got by on her father's name, and now your true colors are showing. He regretted it the instant the words were out. The color drained from Evelyn's face. Her fingers clenched around the edge of her laptop. Her father had passed away 2 years ago. It was the only time Cole had ever seen her break down. I'm sorry, I didn't. He tried to apologize. But Evelyn was already on her feet, grabbing her jacket. I'm going out for some air. You need to cool off. The soft click of the door, closing, felt like a slap across his face. He grabbed a glass from the coffee table, ready to smash it against the wall, but stopped. Smashing this cheap glass would mean having to spend money to buy a new one. Cole collapsed onto the sofa, burying his face in his hands. He didn't understand how things had gotten to this point. A week ago, he was the enviable son-in-law of the Reed family, driving luxury cars, living in a penthouse, spending money without a thought. Now he was holed up in this rat trap, having to think twice before breaking a glass. His phone vibrated. It was a text from the manager of his old club. Cole, heard you've fallen on hard times. Want to come by for a drink? My treat. The mockery was palpable. Cole angrily shut off his phone and tossed it aside. He knew his so-called friends were using him as a punchline, waiting for him to come crawling back, begging for scraps. As night fell, Evelyn still hadn't returned. A knot of anxiety began to form in Cole's stomach. He turned his phone back on, intending to call her, but saw dozens of unread messages and missed calls, all about the bankruptcy. He irritably deleted them all and dialed Evelyn's number. It went straight to voicemail. Cole grabbed his jacket and bolted out the door. The May evening was cool. He walked aimlessly through the streets, with no idea where to find her. The narrow, crowded streets of the old neighborhood, with their dim streetlights, were a world away from the manicured, exclusive communities he was used to. Turning a corner, he saw a familiar silhouette in the window of a coffee shop. It was Evelyn alone, her laptop and files spread out before her, completely absorbed in her work. The warm, yellow light illuminated her face, tracing the determined line of her profile. He was about to push open the door when he heard a familiar female voice behind him. Well, if it isn't Cole Evans. He turned to see Chloe, an ex-girlfriend from 6 months ago, clinging to the arm of a middle-aged man, her eyes full of scorn. She was poured into a tight dress, her makeup heavy and garish. Heard your wife went broke? Chloe cackled. How does it feel? Huh? Going from penthouse prince to pauper. Cole's fists clenched. None of your business. Don't be like that, she whined, leaning against the man. Mr. Thompson, this is the guy I told you about. Evelyn Reed's little-kept man. Now that his sugar mama is gone, I wonder what he'll do for a living. The man, Thompson, looked Cole up and down with undisguised contempt. Good-looking, I'll give him that. But a pretty face doesn't pay the bills. Cole's blood boiled, but he forced himself to hold back. He suddenly realized that without Evelyn, he was nothing in the eyes of these people. No status, no position, not even the right to be respected. Get out of my way, Cole said coldly, pushing past them and into the coffee shop. Evelyn looked up, startled. What are you doing here? Cole sat down across from her, his voice hoarse. I'm sorry. Evelyn was silent for a moment, then closed her laptop. I was wrong too. I shouldn't have dragged you into this kind of life. No. Cole shook his head. It was me. I was too childish. I just ran into Chloe, the model. Evelyn raised an eyebrow. Cole nodded, embarrassed. She was making fun of me. And I realized, without you, I really have nothing. A complex emotion flickered in Evelyn's eyes, but it was quickly masked. Cole, our situation is very difficult right now. If you want a different life, I would understand. What different life? A divorce, she said, looking him straight in the eye. You can take what's left of our personal assets and start over. With your looks, it wouldn't be hard to find another rich woman. Cole froze, as if struck by lightning. A divorce? He'd never even considered it. Even in his worst moments, he'd only thought about finding a temporary arrangement until Evelyn got back on her feet. I don't want a divorce, he heard himself say, his voice so firm it surprised him. When I married you, I made a vow. For richer or poorer. A flicker of something, surprise, emotion, crossed Evelyn's face, but she quickly composed herself. That was 3 years ago, in a church. You didn't even write your own vows. But I mean it now, Cole said, grabbing her hand. Give me a chance, Evelyn. Let me prove I'm not just a joke. Evelyn pulled her hand away and started packing her things. Let's just go home. We have a lot to do tomorrow. They walked out of the coffee shop, one in front of the other. The night breeze cooled Cole's flushed face. He noticed a black Mercedes parked across the street, its window half open. It seemed like someone was watching them. When he tried to get a better look, the car quietly drove away. What is it? Evelyn asked. Nothing, Cole said, shaking his head. Probably just his imagination. The next morning, Cole was awakened by the insistent buzz of the doorbell. He rubbed his eyes and opened the door to find 2 reporters shoving cameras in his face. Mr. Evans, how is your marriage holding up after the bankruptcy? There are rumors you're planning to divorce. Is that true? Ms. Reed, what are your plans now? Cole realized Evelyn was already up, making coffee in the tiny kitchen. She was wearing a simple t-shirt and jeans, her hair in a messy ponytail. She looked like a college student, not the titan of industry he knew. Get out, Cole roared, shoving the reporters back. This is private property. They were relentless. Mr. Evans, we heard your Aston Martin was repossessed. How do you feel about that? Ms. Reed, Arthur Sterling has offered to acquire your company. Will you consider it? At the mention of Arthur Sterling's name, Evelyn's head shot up, her eyes like daggers. Arthur Sterling. The reporters, sensing a scoop, turned their microphones to her. Yes, Mr. Sterling made a public statement this morning offering to take over Reed Industries on the condition that you step down from management. Do you have a response? Cole saw Evelyn's fingers tighten around her coffee mug, her knuckles turning white. On pure instinct, he pushed through the reporters, grabbed Evelyn's hand, and shouted, We have no comment. He shielded her as they ran from the building, flagging down a cab amidst the flashing cameras. As the door slammed shut, Cole let out a long breath, only then noticing the red nail marks on his arm where Evelyn had gripped him. Where to? The driver asked. Evelyn gave an address, then turned to Cole. Thank you. Those 2 simple words sent a jolt of warmth through him. It was the first time Evelyn had ever thanked him for anything. That guy, Arthur Sterling, Cole began hesitantly. Don't ask. Evelyn cut him off. Now is not the time. Cole nodded, not pressing the issue. He took out his phone and saw their pictures were already trending. Hashtag Reed bankruptcy. Hashtag Cole protects wife. Hashtag Evelyn Reed downfall. The headlines were sensational, but one photo stood out. Him, shielding Evelyn from the press, his face a mask of protective fury. Cole stared at the photo, suddenly realizing that this might be the real him. Not the playboy wasting his life away, but a man who would protect his wife. What are you looking at so intently? Evelyn asked. He showed her the phone. We're trending. Evelyn glanced at it, a small smile touching her lips. Well, at least it's a good picture of you. Cole smiled back. It was the first time he'd felt a sense of relief since the bankruptcy. Maybe, he thought, losing all those material things wasn't entirely a bad thing. At least it gave him a chance to rediscover himself and to get to know the woman he'd been married to for 3 years but had never truly understood. The taxi sped toward downtown, sunlight streaming through the windows, warm and bright. Rain lashed against the window pane. Cole stood in the tiny apartment kitchen, staring blankly at the pot of boiling water on the stove. This was his 3rd attempt at making congee. The first 2 had either burned or turned into a watery soup. The white rice porridge bubbled, its warm, starchy scent filling the cramped space. A flash of lightning illuminated the dim kitchen. He checked his watch, 10:30 p.m. Evelyn wasn't back yet. Since they'd moved into this dump 3 days ago, she had worked late into the night every single day. His phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "How's Ms. Reed holding up? Heard she's having a mental breakdown." Cole scowled and deleted it. It was the fifth message like that today. Ever since the bankruptcy news broke, rumors had been spreading like wildfire. The kanji started to stick to the bottom of the pot. Cole fumbled to turn off the heat, nearly burning himself. He let out a self-deprecating laugh. 3 months ago, he was sneering at new money types who didn't know how to open a bottle of champagne. Now he couldn't even cook a simple pot of porridge. The sound of a key turning in the lock caught his attention. He put down the spoon and hurried to the entryway, just in time to see Evelyn stumble in. She was soaked to the bone, her hair plastered to her pale face, her lips a worrying shade of blue. "Why did you walk in the rain?" Cole asked, taking her dripping briefcase. "Didn't you get an Uber?" Evelyn shook her head, her voice hoarse. "Saving money. Walk from a subway." Before she could finish, she swayed. Cole lunged forward, catching her. His hand touched her skin, and he flinched. She was burning up. "You have a fever." Evelyn tried to pull away. "I'm fine. I just need to finish a proposal." Cole ignored her protests and pushed her down onto the sofa. "Don't move." He rummaged through their boxes, finally finding an old mercury thermometer in a first aid kit. Evelyn obediently placed it under her tongue. Her eyes glazed over, her cheeks flushed with a sick, rosy hue. 5 minutes later, Cole held the thermometer up to the light and gasped. 103. "Are you insane? You're working with a fever this high?" Evelyn closed her eyes, her lashes casting long shadows. "Have to meet an investor tomorrow." "To hell with the investor." Cole swore. "What you need is a hospital." "No," she whispered, weak but stubborn. "I'll just take some medicine. I'm used to this." Cole wanted to argue but stopped, realizing he had no idea what Evelyn's used to this even looked like. In 3 years of marriage, he'd never once noticed if she was sick. "At least change out of those wet clothes," he conceded, grabbing one of his own t-shirts and a pair of sweatpants from the closet. "Can you manage?" Evelyn nodded, taking the clothes and stumbling toward the bathroom. Cole followed, uneasy. He heard a soft thud from inside. Forgetting all sense of propriety, he pushed the door open to find Evelyn on her knees, forehead pressed against the wall, the t-shirt only halfway on. "Evelyn!" He rushed over and helped her up. Her body was limp and scorching hot. She seemed to be drifting in and out of consciousness. The next few hours were a blur for Cole. He remembered wrapping her in a towel, carrying her down the 5 flights of stairs in the pouring rain, and frantically trying to flag down a cab for 10 minutes. The driver, complaining about how wet they were, almost refused to take them until Cole shoved 2 crumpled $100 bills into his hand. The emergency room was cold, the fluorescent lights blinding. A doctor diagnosed her with a severe flu that had spiked into a high fever and ordered an 4-drip. Cole stood by her bedside, watching as the nurse inserted the needle into Evelyn's delicate wrist. She didn't even have the strength to flinch. "Are you her next of kin?" the doctor asked. Cole nodded. "I'm her husband." The patient is suffering from extreme fatigue and a compromised immune system. After the fever breaks, she needs to rest. "At least a week off work," the doctor said, pushing his glasses up his nose. "Also, we're seeing signs of minor gastric bleeding, likely from chronic stress and poor diet. I recommend a full workup." Cole nodded mechanically, his eyes glued to Evelyn's pale face. The fluid in the 4 bag dripped down, each drop marking the slow passage of time. At 3 a.m., Evelyn's fever finally began to subside. Cole had rented a folding cot to sleep beside her, but he couldn't rest. The antiseptic smell of the hospital, the groans from the patient in the next bed, the nurse's periodic checks, it was all foreign and unsettling. He turned to look at her sleeping face. He noticed for the first time a tiny mole near her right eye, usually hidden by makeup. Her lips, bare of lipstick, were pale and chapped. She looked so fragile, a world away from the powerhouse CEO who commanded boardrooms. He gently took her hand, surprised by how slender and cold it felt. This was the hand that had signed multi-million-dollar contracts, that had crushed countless business rivals. Now, it lay limp and powerless in his. "What on earth have you been through?" he whispered, a strange heat rising in his eyes. At dawn, Evelyn woke up. She blinked, looking around in confusion, until her gaze landed on Cole. He had fallen asleep, slumped over the side of her bed, his hair a mess, a dark stubble shadowing his jaw. His expensive shirt was wrinkled beyond recognition. "Cole," she whispered. He jolted awake. "You're up. How are you feeling?" He reached out to touch her forehead. "The fever's down. Do you want some water?" Evelyn nodded. As she took the cup, her fingers trembled. Cole helped steady it, watching her take small sips. "The doctor said you need to rest for at least a week," Cole said firmly. "No more work." Evelyn frowned. "I can't. I have a meeting with Mr. Zhang tomorrow about the investment. I'll cancel it for you," Cole said, his tone final. "Nothing is more important than your health." Evelyn stared at him, as if seeing him for the first time. Cole felt a little self-conscious under her gaze and busied himself by straightening her blanket. "What? You've changed," she said softly. Cole gave a wry smile. "Bankruptcy will do that to a person. It's not just that." Evelyn shook her head. "The day before yesterday, I got a bill from the coffee shop. You went back and paid for our coffees." "What?" Cole hadn't expected her to find out. After they'd left the cafe that night, he'd gone back on a strange impulse and settled the bill with the last of his cash. Before, he never would have cared about such a small amount. He always had Evelyn's black card. But now, the thought of taking advantage of her, even for a few dollars, was unbearable. "I just felt like I should," he mumbled. Evelyn didn't press him. She just gave his hand a gentle squeeze. The small gesture sent a jolt of warmth through him. That afternoon, the doctor discharged Evelyn. Cole called a car and carefully helped her in. She was still weak, but her spirits were much better. Back at the apartment, Cole insisted she stay in bed while he went to the kitchen to heat up the congee from last night. To his surprise, it turned out okay, if a little thick. "Want to try?" he asked, walking into the bedroom with a steaming bowl, his face a mixture of hope and nervousness. "My first time making it." Evelyn took the bowl and brought a spoonful to her lips. The rice was cooked down to a soft mush, and it could have used more salt, but it was warm and comforting. "It's good," she said softly. A wide grin spread across Cole's face, like a child who had just been praised. "Really? Then eat up." He sat on the edge of the bed, watching her finish every last bite, a strange sense of satisfaction washing over him. He'd taken women to Michelin-star restaurants, spent thousands on champagne, and had never felt anything like this. "Cole," Evelyn said, putting down the empty bowl. "Why did you stay?" The question caught him off guard. "I mean," she clarified, "you could have left. This life, it's not what you wanted." Cole looked down at his hands. "I don't know. Maybe because, besides here, I had nowhere else to go." He looked up and found Evelyn watching him, her gaze clear and direct, as if it could see right through him. "When I was 5, Cole said suddenly, his voice low, "my mom left with some rich guy. My dad started drinking. Every time he got drunk, he'd say I looked just like her, and then..." He unconsciously touched a faint, almost invisible scar on his left eyebrow. "After that, I learned to use my looks to get what I wanted. It was the easiest way." Evelyn listened quietly, not interrupting. "When I met you, I thought I'd found another long-term meal ticket," Cole said with a self-mocking laugh. "But I didn't expect that you would actually respect me. Even knowing I was just a pretty face, you never once humiliated me." Evelyn reached out and gently placed her hand over his. "We all wear masks to get by, Cole." The rain had stopped. A single ray of sunlight pierced through a gap in the curtains, creating a golden line across the bedsheets. 2 days later, Evelyn was feeling better, but Cole still forbade her from working, insisting on handling simple tasks himself. He went through her contact list, calling to reschedule meetings. "Mr. Peterson, this is Cole Evans, Evelyn Reed's husband." "Yes, she's feeling a bit under the weather." "No, it's not a breakdown, just the flu. Could we possibly postpone the investment meeting for a week?" "That's great. Thank you for understanding." Hanging up, Cole let out a long breath. It was the first time he had formally introduced himself as Evelyn Reed's husband in a professional context, rather than being seen as Ms. Reed's boy toy. It felt good. "Cole," Evelyn said, walking out of the bedroom. Her face was still pale, but she looked much stronger. "Could you get in touch with Jim Peterson? He's in medical devices and might be interested in my new venture." Cole frowned. "You should be resting." "I'm much better," she insisted. "And Jim is hard to get a meeting with. If we miss this chance, we might not get another." Cole thought for a moment, Then his eyes lit up. Jim Peterson. Isn't he that older guy who's obsessed with golf? I think I've seen him at the club. Evelyn nodded, surprised. You know him? Not really, but I know how to get to him, Cole said with a sly grin. Leave it to me. He picked up his phone and dialed a number. Hey, Stan, it's Cole Evans. Yeah, long time no see. Listen, I heard the club is having a golf tournament next week. Think you can give me a spot? I'm bringing a friend. Of course, I know the drill, same old price. Thanks, man. Hanging up, Cole winked at Evelyn. Done. Peterson plays at Oak Ridge Country Club every Tuesday, rain or shine. We'll just happen to run into him next week. Evelyn stared at him, dumbfounded. You, how do you know all that? Cole shrugged. All those years hanging around clubs weren't a complete waste. I know all those old guys' hobbies, schedules, even their mistresses. He paused, adding with some embarrassment, I used to think that information was just for sucking up to people. Now I see. It might actually be useful. Evelyn suddenly laughed, a genuine, heartfelt laugh that crinkled the corners of her eyes. Cole Evans, you're full of surprises. The simple compliment made Cole's chest burn. He suddenly realized that all the luxury goods he'd acquired over the past 3 years combined weren't worth as much as this one smile from Evelyn. That evening, as Cole was taking out the trash, he saw the black Mercedes parked across the street again. This time, he was sure it wasn't his imagination. Someone inside was watching them. When he deliberately started walking toward the car, it immediately sped off. He told Evelyn about it when he got back to the apartment. Her expression darkened. It's Arthur Sterling's people. What's his deal with you, anyway? Cole couldn't help but ask. Why is he so obsessed with taking you down? Evelyn was silent for a long time. Finally, she said quietly, It's a long story. I'll tell you when the time is right. Cole didn't press her, but he noticed her fingers unconsciously stroking the ring finger of her left hand, where her wedding band used to be before she'd sold it. Late that night, Cole lay on a makeshift bed in the living room, listening to the sound of Evelyn's steady breathing from the bedroom. He suddenly felt that this shabby little apartment felt more like a home than their sprawling penthouse ever had. Outside, the black Mercedes had quietly returned, lurking in the darkness like a predator waiting for its moment to strike. The golf ball sailed through the air in a graceful arc, landing just shy of the green. Cole squinted, affecting a look of disappointment. So close. Almost a hole-in-one. Beside him, Jim Peterson laughed heartily, clapping him on the shoulder. Cole, my boy, your game has improved tremendously. The CEO of the medical device company was in his early 60s, slightly overweight, with a ruddy complexion that bespoke years spent on the golf course. Cole smiled modestly. Still have a long way to go to catch up to you, Jim. He subtly glanced toward the clubhouse, where Evelyn was chatting with another female executive, looking completely at ease. This was day 3 of their plan to casually run into Jim Peterson. Using his old club connections, Cole had managed to get them into this exclusive members-only golf retreat. Just as he'd predicted, Peterson, though initially surprised to see him, was quickly drawn in by Cole's feigned incompetence on the course, eager to offer his expert advice. Jim, Cole said, striking while the iron was hot, I heard you're looking to invest in AI-driven medical tech. Peterson raised an eyebrow. You got good sources. He looked around, then lowered his voice. I am, but it's still in the early stages of assessment. Cole feigned nonchalance. My wife, Evelyn Reed, she actually did a lot of research in a similar field at her old company, has a ton of data. Evelyn Reed, Peterson's eyes lit up. I thought she looked familiar. What's she up to these days? Cole hid his elation, keeping his tone calm. Starting a new venture, a medical data analytics platform. In fact, she's here today. He gestured in Evelyn's direction. Half an hour later, Evelyn and Jim Peterson were deep in conversation. Cole stepped back, watching his wife command the conversation, and felt a sense of awe. In a business setting, Evelyn was a different person, confident, sharp, and radiant, a world away from the exhausted woman in their small apartment. Well, Cole, a mocking voice sounded behind him. Didn't think you'd still be able to sneak into a place like Oak Ridge after hitting rock bottom. Cole turned to see a slick young man in a tailored suit, his hair gelled back perfectly, a Richard Mille watch glittering on his wrist. It was Rick Thorne, Arthur Sterling's right-hand man. They'd crossed paths at a few parties before. Rick, Cole managed to smile. Fancy seeing you here. Rick looked him up and down, his contempt undisguised. Heard after Reed Industries went belly up, you two moved into the slums. What are you doing here today? Trolling for new sugar mama. Cole's fingers tightened around his golf club, but he forced himself to relax. You got great sources, Rick. But actually, he lowered his voice conspiratorially. I'm here with Mr. Sterling. He's in a meeting in the VIP lounge. Rick's expression changed. Sterling? No way he's supposed to be. Where? Cole pressed, sensing an opening. Rick immediately became guarded. Are you trying to pump me for information? Cole shrugged. Just making conversation. Anyway, say hi to Mr. Sterling for me. Tell him. The Reed family sends their regards. The words landed like a physical blow. Rick's face froze. He muttered a hasty, "Excuse me," and quickly walked away. Cole watched him go, narrowing his eyes. That reaction was far too strong to be normal. The event was a success. Peterson expressed serious interest in Evelyn's project and scheduled a follow-up meeting for the next week. Today went very well, Evelyn said, a rare smile on her face as she settled into the Uber. Thank you, Cole. Cole was still thinking about Rick Thorne and just grunted in response. Evelyn, ever perceptive, noticed his distraction. What's wrong? I ran into Sterling's attack dog earlier, Cole said with a frown. I told him the Reed family sends their regards, and the guy looked like he'd seen a ghost. Evelyn's body visibly tensed. Why would you say that? A hunch, Cole said, turning to face her. Evelyn, what is the real history between Arthur Sterling and your family? Evelyn stared out the window, silent for a long time. The car drove through the glittering city center, the neon lights casting shifting patterns on her face. 10 years ago, she finally began, her voice low. My father's company almost went bankrupt. It was because of Arthur Sterling. They were partners, but Sterling manipulated the stock behind his back, nearly ruining him. Cole held his breath. This was the first time she had ever spoken about her family's past. My father managed to pull through by taking out high-interest loans from some very dangerous people. He restructured the company, and it became Reed Industries, Evelyn said, her fingers twisting in her lap. 2 years after that, Sterling's own company was hit with a massive financial scandal, and he was forced out his own board. He always believed my father was behind it. Was he? Cole asked softly. Evelyn shook her head. My father said he wasn't. But the truth? I'm not sure. Something clicked in Cole's mind. Wait, 10 years ago, that would have been 2014. My senior year of college, Evelyn confirmed. My father's hair turned white overnight. I gave up my scholarship to study abroad and went straight into the company to help him. She gave a bitter smile. So this bankruptcy, for me, it's the second time around. A tightness formed in Cole's chest. He finally understood why Evelyn had been so calm in the face of ruin, because she had been through worse. And he, her husband, had known none of it. So Sterling is targeting you now for revenge. Partly. Evelyn's voice dropped even lower. But there's more. He wants an algorithm my father developed. It was the core technology of Reed Industries. Even during the liquidation, I managed to protect it. Comprehension dawned on Cole. The basis for your new startup. Evelyn nodded. Sterling knows I'll use it to make a comeback. That's why he's spreading rumors that I'm having a breakdown to scare off investors, while having his men watch my every move. The car stopped at a red light. A massive LED screen on a nearby skyscraper was broadcasting a business news segment. Arthur Sterling's face suddenly filled the screen as he spoke at some forum. Cole and Evelyn both fell silent, staring at the man's smug, self-righteous expression. Back at the apartment, Cole made 2 bowls of instant ramen, one of the few dishes he'd recently mastered. Evelyn seemed lost in thought, eating mechanically. Evelyn, Cole said after a moment, have you ever considered that Sterling might have been involved in what just happened to Reed Industries? She looked up sharply. What do you mean? The timing is too perfect, Cole said, putting down his chopsticks. The day after I refused to help him, the bank suddenly pulls your credit line. Then all your suppliers demand payment at once. This feels like more than just bad luck. Evelyn's eyes began to shine with a new light. You're saying Sterling orchestrated the whole thing? It's just a theory, Cole said cautiously. But if we could find proof, we could turn the tables, Evelyn finished, a fire in her eyes that Cole had never seen before. She grabbed his hand. Cole, help me. Her fingers were cool but strong. Cole felt a jolt of electricity shoot up his arm. He squeezed her hand back. "How? I need to get inside Sterling's inner circle," she said, her words coming quickly. "You know Rick Thorne and those other guys from the club? Can you try to get some information?" Cole raised an eyebrow. "You want me to be a corporate spy? Think of it as being for—" Evelyn paused. Our future. Our future." The words were like a hot coal pressed against his chest, making his heart race. He'd never thought of himself in relation to the word future, let alone a future with someone else. "Okay," he heard himself say, "but on one condition." "What's that?" "You have to teach me the business side of things," Cole said seriously. "If we're going to take on Sterling together, I can't just be a pretty face forever." A look of surprise, followed by genuine admiration, crossed Evelyn's face. She nodded. "Deal." The following days, Cole began his mission. He reconnected with his old contacts in the wealthy elite, attending parties and poker nights, deliberately getting close to Rick Thorne and others in Sterling's orbit. On the surface, he was the same old Cole Evans, drinking, gambling, telling crew jokes. But secretly, he was filing away every potentially useful piece of information, bringing it home for him and Evelyn to analyze together. Thorne said Sterling has been flying to the Cayman Islands a lot recently, always alone. Sterling's Q3 financials show a huge spike in profits, but their main revenue streams are down. Sterling's nephew let it slip after too many drinks that his uncle's old tricks worked again. The fragmented clues began to form a picture. One night, Cole returned from a late-night poker game to find Evelyn asleep at the kitchen table, surrounded by documents and notes. He walked over quietly and saw a piece of paper with a complex web of connections drawn on it. At the center was a picture of Arthur Sterling, linked to a dozen shell corporations and offshore banks. Cole carefully lifted her into his arms, intending to carry her to bed. In her sleep, Evelyn instinctively wrapped her arms around his neck, her head resting on his shoulder, her warm breath tickling his skin. "Cole," she murmured. "Shoo, go to sleep," he whispered, gently laying her down on the bed. But she didn't let go. Instead, she pulled him closer. "Cole." Cole froze. Their faces were inches apart. He could count her individual eyelashes, smell the faint scent of shampoo in her hair. A primal urge stirred within him, but he fought it down, simply lying down beside her and pulling her into a gentle embrace. Evelyn seemed to wake fully, but didn't pull away. They lay in the darkness, listening to the sound of each other's breathing. "I found something." Cole finally broke the silence, his voice hoarse. Sterling may have used shell companies to manipulate several key suppliers into demanding payment all at once. Evelyn's body tensed. "Can you prove it?" "Not yet." Cole shook his head. "I need more." She was quiet for a moment, then did something completely unexpected. She turned and kissed him. It was a light, feather-soft kiss, but it was enough to make the blood sing in his veins. "Thank you," she whispered. Cole didn't know what she was thanking him for investigating Sterling, for the embrace, or for truly seeing her for the first time in 3 years. But he knew, in that moment, that the woman in his arms was no longer just the powerful Ms. Reed. She was his wife. Outside, the black Mercedes still appeared on its regular schedule, a tireless vulture waiting for the kill. 6. "Congratulations, Ms. Reed. We've decided to fund your venture." Mr. Peterson, the head of the Angel Investor Syndicate, smiled and extended his hand. Polite applause filled the conference room. Evelyn maintained a professional smile as she shook hands with each investor, but Cole, standing a half-step behind her, could see the slight tremor in her fingertips. This was the 3rd month since they had moved into the small apartment, and the 92nd consecutive day Evelyn had worked past midnight. Cole, for the first time, was present in a formal business meeting as her associate. He wore a rented suit, his hair was perfectly styled, and he held a binder of meticulously prepared data, every page of which he had studied until he could recite it in his sleep. "Thank you all for your confidence." Evelyn's voice was clear and steady. "Medical data analytics is the next frontier, and I won't let you down." Leaving the investment firm's building, Evelyn's step was noticeably lighter. The sun shone on her face, highlighting her sharp profile. Cole noticed then how much weight she had lost over the past few months. Her tailored suit jacket, once perfectly fitted, now hung loosely on her frame. "We did it." The moment they were in the car, she grabbed his arm. her eyes shining. 20 million in the first round. It's enough to launch the project. Cole couldn't help but grin back. You were amazing. I knew you could do it. We were amazing. Evelyn corrected him, giving his arm a gentle squeeze. Without your connections and your investigation, I never would have gotten this funding so quickly. A warm current flowed through Cole's chest. The word sounded so precious coming from her. By the way, Evelyn said, reviewing the contract, there's a small reception after the signing ceremony next week. You need to be there. No problem, Cole said, starting the car. But before that, you need to see a doctor. Evelyn frowned. What doctor? Don't play dumb, Cole said, gesturing to her stomach. I've woken up to you throwing up in the bathroom 3 times this week. The stomach pains are getting worse. It's just stress. Evelyn looked away. Cole, cut her off. Either you go to the hospital yourself tomorrow, or I will carry you there. Your choice. Evelyn looked at him, stunned. It was the first time Cole had ever spoken to her in such a non-negotiable tone. The sunlight streaming through the window cast his profile in a hard, determined line she had never noticed before. I have a 30-minute window tomorrow afternoon, she finally conceded. Deal, Cole said, turning the steering wheel, a small smile playing on his lips. The next day, Cole was waiting outside Evelyn's temporary office space right on time. She looked terrible, with dark circles under her eyes and pale lips. You didn't sleep again last night, did you? Cole frowned. Evelyn shook her head, just making final revisions to the business plan. She trailed off, suddenly clutching her abdomen and bending forward slightly. Without another word, Cole ushered her into a taxi. Midtown General, and step on it, please. The sterile, antiseptic smell of the hospital brought Cole back to the night of Evelyn's fever. He walked closely behind her, watching her straight, proud back, and suddenly realized that this seemingly indestructible woman had been running on fumes for a long time. The head of gastroenterology, Dr. Miller, was an old friend of Evelyn's father. After a thorough consultation, he scheduled an endoscopy. Just a routine check, don't worry, Dr. Miller said reassuringly, but Cole caught the flicker of concern in his eyes. The procedure was more difficult to watch than Cole had imagined. Evelyn bit down hard, enduring the discomfort of the tube, her fingers gripping the bedsheets. Cole stood by, helpless, wishing he could take the pain for her. After the examination, Dr. Miller had them wait in his office. Evelyn leaned back in a plastic chair, her eyes closed. Cole went and bought 2 cups of hot tea. Thanks, she said, her fingertips cold as she took the cup. Half an hour later, Dr. Miller called them in. The atmosphere in the office was instantly suffocating. The doctor sat behind his desk, a stack of reports in front of him, his expression grim. Ms. Reed, the results show a 2-centimeter ulcer in your stomach with irregular margins, he began, getting straight to the point. The biopsy results will take 3 days, but based on my experience, it's very likely early-stage stomach cancer. Cole's world stopped. He heard Evelyn's sharp intake of breath and saw her fingers curl in a fist on her lap, but her expression remained terrifyingly placid. Are you certain? She asked, her voice unnervingly calm. 80% sure, Dr. Miller sighed. Your chronic stress, irregular diet, and family history. Family history? Cole interrupted. What do you mean? Evelyn answered softly. My mother died of stomach cancer. I was 12. Cole felt as if he'd been struck by lightning. He had never imagined this part of her past. In his mind, she was always the invincible Ms. Reed, too strong to need anyone. But we caught it early. The prognosis is very good, Dr. Miller added, trying to soften the blow. We need to schedule surgery and subsequent treatment as soon as possible. Leaving the office, Evelyn walked so fast Cole had to jog to keep up. She hailed a cab at the hospital entrance and gave the address of her office. The office now? Cole said in disbelief. You should be going home to rest. Evelyn didn't even look at him. The investment agreement isn't signed yet. The project needs to launch immediately. If I have to have surgery, I need to get everything in order before then. Cole grabbed her wrist. Evelyn, stop. You were just told you might have cancer. You need to at least give yourself a minute to process. I don't have time to fall apart, she suddenly yelled, her voice sharp enough to make passers-by stare. Her eyes were red, her voice trembling. Do you have any idea what it took for me to get here? If I go down, Everything is over. Arthur Sterling will descend like a vulture and tear apart what's left. Cole had never seen her so unraveled. He pulled her forcefully into his arms, ignoring her struggles. "No, he won't," he said firmly in her ear. "You have me. I won't let everything fall apart." Evelyn's body went rigid, then suddenly sagged against him. She buried her face in his chest, her shoulders shaking. Cole felt his shirt grow damp with warm tears. This woman, who never showed weakness, was finally crying in his arms. That night, for the first time in months, Evelyn lay down early, but she tossed and turned, unable to sleep. Cole sat by her bedside, gently holding her hand. "I looked it up. The 5-year survival rate for early-stage stomach cancer is over 90%, he said. "You're going to be fine." Evelyn stared at the ceiling. "You know what I'm most afraid of? It's not death. It's ending up like my father, losing everything just as you're about to succeed." She turned to face him. 10 years ago, he survived Sterling's betrayal, but right before the company was about to go public, he had a massive stroke. He never made it back to the office. Cole finally understood why she worked so relentlessly. She wasn't chasing success. She was running from her father's fate. "This time is different," he said firmly. "You have me. I won't let you face this alone." Evelyn's eyes glistened in the dark. "Why?" she whispered. "You could have left. Why did you stay?" Cole was silent for a long moment. Why? At first, it was because he had nowhere else to go. Then it was guilt. And then it was because he saw the vulnerability beneath her iron exterior, because he found himself caring about her happiness, because he'd grown used to waking up and seeing her sleeping face next to him. Because, he finally said, "I want to see how far we can go together." 3 days later, the biopsy confirmed Dr. Miller's diagnosis: early-stage stomach cancer. The surgery was scheduled for the following week. In those 7 days, Evelyn worked like a woman possessed, arranging every detail of the project launch. Cole, in turn, handled the hospital arrangements, secured the funds for the surgery, and researched post-op care. He took it more seriously than he had ever taken anything in his life, surprising even Evelyn. "Where did you get the money for the deposit?" she asked when she found out he'd prepaid $50,000 for the surgery. Cole shrugged. "Sold a few of my watches." Evelyn froze. Those watches were his most prized possessions. In the past, he would have borrowed money before even thinking of selling them. "Don't give me that look," Cole said, gently pinching her cheek. "It's not like I have anywhere to wear them these days. Better they do something useful." The night before the surgery, Evelyn finally stopped working. They sat on the small balcony of their apartment, looking out at the city lights. The May breeze carried the scent of flowers, and the distant neon glowed, as if everything was normal. "I made a list," Evelyn said suddenly. "If, and I'm just saying if, the surgery doesn't go well." "It will," Cole interrupted. "Let me finish," she insisted. "The list has all the resources and contacts I can think of. It will help you run the company. All the passwords are on the back." A knot formed in Cole's chest. "I don't need that. You're going to be running the company yourself, remember?" Evelyn looked out at the skyline. "I just want to be prepared. My father, he didn't leave anything behind." Cole turned and gripped her shoulders. "Look at me, Evelyn. You are not your father. History is not going to repeat itself. You will get better. We will watch the company grow together. We will fight Sterling together, and we will—" His voice caught. "We will grow old together." The last words brought tears to Evelyn's eyes. She leaned into his embrace. "Promise me something." "What?" "If you wake up tomorrow and the doctor tells you the news is bad, don't hide it from me. I want to know the truth." Cole tightened his arms around her. "I promise." The surgery took 4 hours. Cole paced the waiting room, downing 6 cups of bitter coffee. When Dr. Miller finally emerged and announced that the surgery was a success, Cole's legs gave out, and he nearly collapsed. "We got the entire tumor. No signs of spreading," the doctor said, exhausted but satisfied. "She's a very lucky woman." In the recovery room, Evelyn was asleep under anesthesia, her face ashen and 4 drip in the back of her hand. Cole sat carefully by her bed, gently holding her other hand. It was cold and so thin, the bones of her wrist sharp beneath the skin. In that moment, Cole understood true fear. Not the fear of poverty or failure, but the fear of losing someone. The realization hit him like a bolt of lightning. He was in love with Evelyn, not for who she was or what she could give him, but simply because she was her. Evelyn woke in the middle of the night, the post-anesthesia pain causing her to grimace. Cole immediately buzzed the nurse and began dabbing her chapped lips with a wet cotton swab. "Was it a success?" she asked weakly. Cole nodded, unable to stop himself from leaning down and kissing her forehead. "A complete success. The doctor said you're good for another 50 years, at least." A faint smile touched her lips. "And our company will be waiting for you when you recover," Cole said firmly. "Now close your eyes and rest. I'm not going anywhere." Evelyn closed her eyes, but her fingers remained tightly entwined with his, as if she were afraid he would disappear if she let go. Cole watched her breathing grow steady, and for the first time, seriously contemplated the meaning of the word forever. 2 weeks later, Evelyn was discharged. Cole had turned their apartment into a mini recuperation center, piling the bed with soft pillows and stocking the fridge with nutritional supplements. He'd even learned to make soup, though his first attempt nearly set the kitchen on fire. "You don't have to do all this," Evelyn said, watching him fuss over her. Cole adjusted the scarf around her neck without looking up. "Of course I do. The doctor said you need to stay warm." "I mean," she said, gently catching his wrist, "you could hire a nurse. You don't have to do this yourself." Cole finally looked at her, his gaze unwavering. "I want to do it myself." He paused. "Evelyn, my whole life, I've never taken anything or anyone seriously. But now, I want to be serious about you. Not just now, but always." Sunlight streamed through the window, illuminating her face, her eyes shining. She slowly pulled him closer and pressed a soft kiss to his lips. This kiss was different from all the others. It was filled with promise and hope, like a new beginning. "You know," she said softly, "when my mother was sick, my father never once visited her in the hospital. He said he was too busy with work." Cole's heart ached. He now understood why she always kept people at a distance. She had never seen what a healthy, loving relationship looked like. "I will never be that to you," he promised. Never. Outside, the early summer sun bathed the city in light. The black Mercedes that had been watching them still made its periodic appearances, but now, Cole felt safer than ever, because they were finally no longer alone. Rain streaked down the windows of the coffee shop, blurring the city lights into a watercolor painting. Cole stood inside, his eyes fixed on a single lit window across the street. Arthur Sterling's private office. He had been watching it for 3 days, memorizing Sterling's routine. Every Wednesday, from 8 to 9 p.m., he worked alone in his office while his bodyguards stood watch outside the door. Tonight was the night. Cole checked his watch, 7:50 p.m. He took a deep breath, drained the last of his cold coffee, and picked up the briefcase at his feet. The rain soaked his shoulders the moment he stepped outside, but he ignored it. At 8 p.m. sharp, he walked into the lobby of Sterling Tower, looking for all the world like just another employee working late. "Good evening, sir. Do you have an appointment?" the receptionist asked. Cole flashed a charming smile. "I'm here to see Rick Thorne in marketing. He's expecting me at 8. The receptionist glanced at her log. "Mr. Thorne isn't in tonight, sir." "That's odd. He told me he'd be on the 28th floor," Cole said with a frown, pulling out his phone. "Let me just give him a call." As the receptionist looked down to check her directory, Cole strode toward the elevator bank and swiped a key card, pressing the button for the 28th floor. The card had cost him a small fortune, procured from Rick Thorne's assistant. Just before the doors closed, he saw the receptionist frantically picking up her phone. The 28th floor was eerily quiet, with only the office at the end of the hall illuminated. Cole moved silently down the corridor and heard Sterling's voice from inside. "Keep an eye on Evelyn Reed. Yes, we have to acquire that new startup of hers." Cole held his breath and slipped into the adjacent secretary's office. It was pitch black, save for the faint glow of a computer monitor. He gently closed the door and pulled a pair of thin gloves and a small digital camera from his briefcase. 10 minutes, he told himself. That's all he would need if Sterling left his office. The wait was agonizing. Cole could hear his own heart pounding in his ears. Finally, 20 minutes later, he heard the office door open and Sterling's footsteps fading down the hall. Cole sprang into action. He slipped into Sterling's office and went straight for the massive mahogany desk. The locked drawers were no match for him, He picked up a few useful skills over the years. 30 seconds later, a drawer clicked open. Inside were several neat stacks of files. He rifled through them until a folder labeled Read Confidential caught his eye. He opened it, and his blood ran cold. It was a detailed plan, dated 3 months before the bankruptcy, outlining exactly how to manipulate banks and suppliers to bring down Reed Industries. "You old bastard," Cole muttered, quickly photographing every page. As he reached the last few pages, he heard footsteps in the hallway. Sterling was coming back, too soon. Cole scrambled to put the files back, but it was too late to make it look untouched. The footsteps were getting closer. He glanced around frantically. There was no other way out. At the last second, he ducked into the small private lounge attached to the office, pulling the door almost shut. Through the crack, he saw Sterling walk in and go straight to his desk. "Strange," Sterling mumbled, his fingers tracing the lock on the drawer. "I could have sworn I locked this." Cole held his breath. Sterling picked up his phone. "Security? Check the surveillance for the 28th floor. I want to know who's been in my office." He couldn't wait any longer. Cole burst out of the lounge, shoving past the stunned Sterling and bolting for the door. "Stop him!" Sterling's roar echoed behind him. Cole frantically jabbed at the elevator button, but it wouldn't respond. It had been locked down. He veered into the fire escape and sprinted down the stairs, the sound of at least 3 sets of footsteps chasing him. At the 15th floor, he changed tactics, bursting into the main office area. It was empty. He dove into a supply closet, pulled the door shut, and gasped for air in the darkness. His phone vibrated. It was Evelyn. He couldn't answer, instead sending a pre-written code. "Safe. Contact you later." 5 minutes later, the commotion outside died down. Cole cautiously peered out. The hallway was empty. He smoothed his suit and walked calmly toward the elevators, which he prayed were now unlocked. Just as he reached the elevator bank, a cold voice stopped him. "Cole, long time no see." He turned to see Rick Thorne and 2 large goons blocking his path. Rick was idly flicking a switchblade, a cruel smile on his face. "Mister, Sterling would like a word with you." Cole backed away until his back hit the wall. "I'll have to decline. Give him my regards." "I'm afraid it's not an invitation," Rick sneered, nodding to his men. They lunged. Cole dodged the first man, but took a hard punch to the gut from the second. Pain exploded in his abdomen, but years of bar fights kicked in. He instinctively drove an elbow into the man's jaw. "Son of a bitch can fight," Rick cursed, stepping forward himself. The switchblade flashed. Cole felt a sharp, slicing pain in his left arm, and warmth spread down his sleeve. "Hand over the evidence," Rick demanded, closing in. "Sterling knows what you took." Cole grinned, though the pain contorted his face. "What evidence?" "I was just stopping by to say hello." "Playing tough, huh?" Rick slashed again, this time across Cole's ribs. "Last chance." Cole leaned against the wall, breathing heavily. He knew he wasn't getting out of this clean, but he had to protect the camera. It was Evelyn's only hope. "Fine," he said, stalling. "It's in my pocket. Come and get it." As Rick stepped closer, Cole summoned all his strength and headbutted him squarely in the nose. Rick screamed as blood gushed. Cole seized the opportunity and bolted for the fire escape again, but his injuries slowed him down. At the 14th floor landing, one of the goons caught up and kicked his legs out from under him. His head slammed against a concrete step. Through a blurry haze, he felt hands patting him down, taking his phone and wallet. But the small camera, tucked securely inside his sock, went undiscovered. "It's not on him," one of the goons said. Rick, clutching his broken nose, snarled, "Take him back upstairs." "We'll get out of him." Cole knew if they took him back to Sterling, it was over. On the verge of blacking out, he used his last ounce of strength to lunge sideways, tumbling over the railing and falling to the floor below. When Cole opened his eyes again, the white light was so bright he had to shut them immediately. An all-encompassing pain told him he was still alive. "You're awake," a familiar voice. He forced his eyes open again and saw Evelyn's distraught face. Her eyes were red and swollen, but her expression was as hard as ice. "Hose! Heidel!" he rasped. "Midtown General," she said, her voice trembling. "You fell down a flight of stairs. You have a skull fracture, 2 broken ribs, a knife wound on your arm that took 12 stitches, and a concussion." With each injury she listed, her voice grew louder. "What the hell were you thinking?" Cole tried to smile, but it came out as a grimace. Thinking about our future. Evelyn shot to her feet, the chair scraping loudly against the floor. Do you have any idea how close you were dying? Was it worth it for a few pictures? It was, he said, struggling to lift his good hand to her wrist. The camera, in my sock. I got it. Sterling's entire plan. Evelyn's anger deflated like a popped balloon. She sank back into the chair, burying her face in her hands. You idiot. I would rather lose than have you. Cole had never seen her like this. Not during the bankruptcy, not even with the cancer diagnosis. But now, for him, she was falling apart. Evelyn, he said softly, listen. The camera. I got it, she said, taking a deep, shaky breath, some of her composure returning. The pictures are downloaded. The evidence is solid. It proves Sterling orchestrated the entire bankruptcy. Cole nodded, closing his eyes in relief. Good. It's not good, she flared up again. Do you know what it felt like when I got that call from the hospital, telling me you'd been brought in covered in blood? I thought. Her voice broke. Cole opened his eyes again, stunned to see tears streaming down her cheeks. I'm sorry, he said, his voice full of genuine remorse. But I had to do it. Why? She almost screamed. You were never the self-sacrificing type. You could have just. Because I love you, Cole said, his voice quiet but firm, cutting her off. The words hung in the air, silencing everything but the steady beep of the heart monitor. Evelyn stared at him, her lips trembling. I know it sounds crazy, Cole continued, his voice halting with pain. When we got married 3 years ago, you were just a meal ticket. When the company went bankrupt, my first instinct was to run, but he swallowed hard. But I realized there's nowhere else I'd rather be than by your side. Evelyn's tears fell faster, but she didn't interrupt. These last few months, I've seen the real you, strong, brilliant, stubborn as hell. A faint smile touched his lips. And I've seen the real me. I found out I'm not just some useless playboy. I can protect the people I care about. Evelyn gripped his hand, her hold so tight it hurt, but he didn't pull away. So yes, I love you, Cole said, looking directly in her eyes. Not because you're a CEO, not for what you have, but just because you're you. Evelyn bowed her head, pressing her forehead against their joined hands. Cole could feel her trembling, her warm tears on his skin. You absolute bastard, she sobbed. You wait until you're half dead to say something like that. Cole used his thumb to gently wipe a tear from her cheek. Well, now you know. So stop crying. I'm fine, see? You're not fine, she said, looking up, her eyes still red. The doctor said you have to be on bed rest for at least 2 weeks. Perfect, he grinned. You can take care of me, just like I took care of you. Evelyn finally managed a watery laugh, swatting his arm gently. In your dreams, her expression turned serious again. Sterling won't let this go, now that he knows we're onto him. Cole nodded, grimacing as a wave of pain shot through him. We have to move fast. Is the evidence enough to press charges? Not quite. Evelyn shook her head. Proving he orchestrated the bankruptcy is just the first step. To really bury him, we need more: tax evasion, insider trading, something that can't be swept under the rug. Cole thought for a moment. Rick Thorne mentioned sterling flies to the Caymans a lot. Could it be related to money laundering? Evelyn's eyes lit up. It's possible. I'll have someone look into it. She stood and gently kissed his forehead. Now you get some rest. I'll handle this. Cole grabbed her hand. Be careful. Sterling is a cornered animal now. Don't worry, Evelyn said, a glint of steel in her eyes. I'm not playing this game alone anymore. I've already contacted some of my father's old allies. Arthur Sterling picked a fight with the wrong woman. After she left, Cole stared at the ceiling, his mind racing. The pain was immense, but his heart was calm. He had finally found his purpose, not as Evelyn's accessory, but as her partner, her ally, her husband. Outside, the city night deepened, the lights refracting through the rain-streaked glass into a kaleidoscope of color, like a new beginning. 8. The day Cole was discharged from the hospital, the sun was exceptionally bright. He stood at the entrance, squinting, his left arm still in a sling, a dull ache radiating from his ribs. Evelyn stood beside him, holding a duffel bag, her other hand hovering near his back as if she expected him to keel over. Don't look so worried, Cole grinned. The doctor said I'm making an excellent recovery. Evelyn rolled her eyes. A concussion and a fractured skull is excellent. But the corners of her mouth turned up, betraying her relief. A black sedan pulled up to the curb. Cole raised an eyebrow at Evelyn. Rented? Bought, she replied curtly. Used, but the performance is solid. We can't rely on Ubers forever. Cole let out a low whistle. The funding must have really come through. Once inside, Cole realized this wasn't just any used car. Though its exterior was discreet, the interior was fully loaded, with leather seats and a high-tech dashboard. When Evelyn started the engine, it emitted a low, powerful hum. This thing is modified, isn't it? He asked, impressed. A small smile touched Evelyn's lips. Bulletproof glass, reinforced chassis, and a private tracking system. She glanced at him. Arthur Sterling isn't going to give up easily. A warmth spread through Cole's chest. The detail showed she wasn't just thinking about his safety. She was investing in it. The old Evelyn would have just told him to be careful. The car headed downtown, but Evelyn bypassed their little apartment, turning instead toward a luxury residential area. We're moving, renting a place with better security for now, she explained. We can decide on a permanent home when this is all over. The new apartment was a penthouse in a high-rise, spacious and bright, with a sweeping view of the city. Cole stood before the floor-to-ceiling windows, feeling a wave of emotion. 3 months ago, they'd fallen from a mansion to a slum. Now, while it was nothing like their former life, they had the capital to start again. Like it, Evelyn came to stand beside him. Cole nodded, then noticed the coffee table pile with files and laptops. You brought all this here? Yes. Her expression turned serious. We need to talk. She led him to the sofa and opened a laptop. The screen showed a meticulously organized file detailing Arthur Sterling's various crimes: stock manipulation, commercial fraud, and suspected money laundering. This is enough to put him away for a long time, Cole said admiringly. What's your plan? Evelyn bit her lip. That's the problem. She pulled up another document. Sterling isn't acting alone. He has an entire network behind him, including some high-level politicians and bank executives. If we release this evidence publicly, we'll make a lot of enemies, Cole finished, his brow furrowed. An illegal process is risky. They could destroy the evidence before we even file a suit. It's more than that. Evelyn's voice dropped. You would be in danger. Sterling has already come after you once. If he finds out what we have— Cole took her hand. Are you worried about me? Of course I'm worried about you, she exclaimed, then lowered her voice. Look at you. What if next time it's not just a broken bone, but— Her voice caught. Cole was stunned to see tears glistening in her eyes. This titan of industry, who faced down corporate raiders without flinching, was losing her composure over his safety. Evelyn, Cole said softly, I'm not afraid of the danger. I'm only afraid of not being able to help. She took a deep breath, forcing herself to be calm. I know, but we need a foolproof plan. Cole thought for a moment. Then his eyes lit up. I have an idea, but it would mean contacting someone. Who? My father. Evelyn looked taken aback. In their 3 years of marriage, Cole had never once mentioned his father, other than to say their relationship was terrible. Your father? He's a prosecutor, isn't he? She asked carefully. Cole nodded, his expression complicated. Mark Evans, deputy state prosecutor, a man of unimpeachable integrity. He gave a bitter smile. And my number one enemy for the past 20 years. Because of your mother. Partly, Cole said, walking to the window. I hate him not just for the drinking and what came after, but because he had the power to find my mother after she left, and he chose not to. Evelyn came up behind him and wrapped her arms around his waist, careful to avoid his injuries. Are you sure you want to do this? Cole turned to face her. For you, I'm willing to try. His connections and legal expertise could be crucial. Evelyn looked at him, her eyes filled with a storm of emotions. Finally, she just nodded. If you're ready, I'm with you. Cole took out his phone. His thumb hovered over a contact he hadn't dialed in years. When the call connected, his heart hammered against his ribs. Hello. A deep, serious voice answered. Dad, it's me. Cole's own voice was shaky. A few seconds of silence. Cole. Yeah. He took a deep breath. I need your help. Another long pause. Finally, his father spoke. What is it? Cole explained the situation briefly, focusing on Sterling's crimes and the evidence they had. Mark Evans listened, asked a few sharp, professional questions, then said, "Send me the evidence." My email hasn't changed. No promises, no warmth, but no refusal either. That was Mark Evans, always by the book. After hanging up, Cole let out a long breath, realizing his back was damp with sweat. Evelyn handed him a glass of water. He said he'll look at the evidence. Cole shrugged. For him, that's practically a warm welcome. She squeezed his shoulder gently. "Thank you." "Don't thank me. We're in this together," he said. He paused, but something was strange. When I mentioned Sterling and the Reed family, my dad didn't seem surprised. It was like he already knew something. Evelyn frowned. "What do you mean?" "I'm not sure," Cole mused, but he agreed to meet me tomorrow to discuss it. The next afternoon, Cole went alone to the tea house his father had chosen. It was a quiet, traditional spot tucked away in a downtown alley. Mark Evans was already waiting at a corner table, dressed in a crisp suit, his hair more gray than Cole remembered. "Dad." Cole sat down across from him. Mark looked up, his gaze as sharp as ever. "How are the injuries?" Cole was taken aback. His father was asking about his health. "Getting better," Mark nodded, pushing a folder across the table. "I've reviewed your evidence. It's substantial, but it's not enough to take down the network behind Sterling." Cole opened the folder. Inside were his father's handwritten notes and legal analysis. "So what do you suggest?" "Two paths," Mark said, holding up two fingers. "One, you handle this quietly. Use the evidence to force a settlement with Sterling. Or two," he lowered his voice, "you find a smoking gun and you take him down for good." "We're taking the second path," Cole said without hesitation. A flicker of approval crossed his father's face. "I knew you'd say that. Your mother was the same way." Cole froze. His mother was a forbidden topic between them. "Dad," he asked cautiously, "do you know something about Sterling and the Reed family's past?" Mark's expression grew complex. He pulled another folder from his briefcase and slid it over. 25 years ago, I worked a case. Read this, and you'll understand." Cole opened the folder. It was a yellowed case file. When he saw what it was, his breath caught in his throat. It was the investigation record for an attempted murder. The victim was Evelyn's father, Richard Reed, and the primary suspect was a young Arthur Sterling. "This, Evelyn never told me." Cole looked up, shocked. "She probably doesn't know." Mark sighed. "There wasn't enough evidence at the time, and the case went cold. But I always suspected Sterling. He and Richard Reed were business partners before a bitter falling out over shares." Cole scanned the document, and one detail jumped out. "Eyewitness. Sarah Manning." "Is that Evelyn's mother?" Mark confirmed. "She witnessed the attack, but she died suddenly before she could give a formal deposition. Stomach cancer," Cole whispered, a horrifying realization dawning on him. "Are you saying—" "Sterling, there's no proof," Mark said gravely. But the timing was too convenient. After Sarah Manning died, the case fell apart. Cole's hands clenched into fists. It all made sense now. Sterling's obsession, his need not just to ruin them, but to humiliate Evelyn. This wasn't business. This was a vendetta stretching back a quarter of a century. "Dad," Cole's voice was hoarse. "Help us." Mark was silent for a long time. Finally, he nodded. "I will provide legal guidance. But you need to find irrefutable proof. Sterling is slippery. I couldn't catch him 25 years ago." Leaving the tea house, Cole felt a whirlwind of emotions. His father's unexpected cooperation was overshadowed by the sickening truth about Evelyn's family. He was about to unlock the apartment door when he saw a piece of paper slipped underneath. He looked around, then picked it up. A single line was printed on it. "Tonight, 8 p.m. Grand Monarch Hotel, room 2808. Come alone. Chloe, Cole frowned. What could she possibly want? His gut told him this was no coincidence. He found Evelyn on a video call. When she finished, he handed her the note and the files from his father. Evelyn's face went white as she read the case file. "So Sterling's vendetta against my family. It was never just about business." Cole wrapped his arms around her trembling shoulders. "We will make him pay for what he did." She took a few deep breaths, forcing herself calm, then looked at the note. "Why do you think Chloe wants to see you?" "It has to be Sterling," Cole sneered. "Probably a clumsy attempt to drive a wedge between us." "Are you going?" "Of course." Cole's eyes glinted. "But not alone. We're going together." That evening, They checked into the room opposite 2808, his father's idea. Cole went into 2808 alone, while Evelyn watched from their room via a small camera he had planted. Chloe was waiting, wearing a revealing red dress. Cole, honey, long time no see. He stayed by the door. What do you want, Chloe? So cold, she pouted. I heard you've been having a rough time. Sterling is really putting you through the ringer. Cole's eyes narrowed. Sterling sent you. Her smile faltered. I'm just worried about you. What's so great about Evelyn Reed anyway? All she knows is work, and now she doesn't even have a company. Shut up. Cole's voice was ice. If you're just here to play games, I'm leaving. Wait, she said, rushing to block his path. She pulled an envelope from her purse. Look at this first. Cole opened it. Inside was a stack of photos of him and Chloe, intimate, some taken in bed. His expression darkened. What is this? Sterling wants me to give them to Evelyn, she said, her voice suddenly nervous. But I was thinking, we can make a deal. If you just do one thing for me. Cole laughed coldly. Did Sterling threaten you? Her fingers twisted together. He has something on me. But if Evelyn sees these, you two are finished. So you're trying to blackmail me? Cole advanced on her. Chloe, you don't know me at all. And you really don't know Evelyn. He pulled out his phone and dialed Evelyn's number. Honey, you can come over now. A minute later, Evelyn walked in. Chloe's face turned pale. You were. Evelyn didn't even glance at her, walking straight to Cole's side. Nice photos. The lighting is a bit off, though. Cole laughed, pulling her close. I thought so, too. Chloe stared, dumbfounded. You too. You don't care. Care about what? Evelyn arched an eyebrow. My husband passed. Or Sterling's pathetic attempt to break us up. Cole tossed the photos back at Chloe. Tell Sterling if he has a problem. He can face me himself. Stop hiding behind women. Chloe's face flushed, and she finally broke down in tears. You don't understand. He'll ruin me. I owe him so much money. Cole and Evelyn exchanged a look. Cole sighed and handed her a business card. This is my father's contact info. He's a prosecutor. He can help you. But on one condition, you become our witness. Chloe took the card, her hands shaking, a flicker of hope in her eyes. Oh, really? If you're willing to testify against Arthur Sterling, Evelyn added. Leaving the hotel, they walked down the street, neither of them in a hurry to get a cab. You really don't mind the photos? Evelyn glanced at him. I mind. Not because of you, but because someone thought they could destroy us with something so cheap. Cole smiled, taking her hand. You know, sometimes I think you're not human. A normal person would be jealous. Of course I'm jealous, Evelyn admitted softly. But more than I am jealous, I trust the man you are now. The words made Cole's chest burn. He stopped under a streetlight and looked at her seriously. Evelyn, no matter what happens, we face it together. Promise me. She met his gaze and slowly nodded. I promise. They walked home hand in hand, their shadows merging under the streetlights, a silent vow between them. A bigger storm was coming, but for now, they had each other. And that was enough. 9. The stage lights were blinding. Evelyn stood in the wings, peering through a crack in the curtain at the sea of faces in the audience. Over 500 business leaders, government officials, and journalists. Many of them were Arthur Sterling's allies. Nervous, Cole came up behind her, his fingers gently squeezing her shoulder. Evelyn shook her head, though she reflexively smoothed down her already perfect suit. She'd chosen a deep navy power suit for today, professional and understated. My dad just texted, Cole whispered. The police are in position. They're waiting for your signal. Evelyn took a deep breath and nodded. 3 months of investigation, of gathering evidence, of legal prep, all for this moment. Today, as a keynote speaker at the annual Global Innovation Summit, she would expose Arthur Sterling for everything he was. 5 minutes, Ms. Reed, a stagehand said. Cole suddenly pulled her hand, turning her to face him. Remember, whatever happens, I'm right there in the front row. His gaze was steady and warm. The faint scar above his left eyebrow, a permanent reminder of the night he nearly died for this, was visible under the lights. Evelyn reached up and gently touched his cheek, realizing that the man she had once dismissed as a decorative accessory had become the bedrock of her life. I know, she whispered, rising on her toes to give him a quick, firm kiss. The host's booming voice filled the auditorium. And now, please welcome the founder of Nexus Technologies and former CEO of Reed Industries, Ms. Evelyn Reed, for her talk on business ethics and technological innovation. As applause erupted, Evelyn took one last look at Cole, squared her shoulders, and walked into the spotlight. On stage, she was a commanding presence. In the front row, Arthur Sterling sat with a placid smile, but Evelyn could feel the warning in his eyes. "Good afternoon, everyone," she began, her voice clear and strong. "Today, I'm not just going to talk about innovation. I'm going to tell you a story about greed, betrayal, and redemption." She clicked the remote. The title appeared on the giant screen behind her, Ethics and the Law in Modern Business. Sterling's smile tightened. For the next 20 minutes, Evelyn laid out the case against him with cold, hard facts. With each click of the remote, another piece of evidence appeared. Documents, audio recordings, bank transfers, even a sworn affidavit from Rick Thorne. A murmur grew into a roar in the audience. People were shocked, outraged. Phones came out recording. Sterling's face went from red to white to a ghastly shade of gray. He made a stand up, but saw plainclothes officers positioned by the exits. Finally, Evelyn's voice caught for a moment. "I want to talk about a 25-year-old mystery." A yellowed case file appeared on screen. In 1998, my father, Richard Reed, was brutally attacked and nearly killed. The primary suspect at the time was Arthur Sterling. She clicked again, displaying a medical report. And my mother, the only eyewitness, died suddenly of natural causes just before she was scheduled to testify. The room erupted. Sterling shot to his feet. "This is slander. Lies." At that moment, an elderly man stood up from the audience. All eyes turned to him. It was Dr. Albright, the medical examiner who had performed the autopsy on Evelyn's mother. An abnormal concentration of arsenic was found in Mrs. Reed's tissue samples, Dr. Albright said, his voice ringing with authority. At the time, I was pressured to amend the report, but I kept the original records. Sterling looked like a dead man walking. Evelyn felt a wave of dizziness and gripped the lectern. She hadn't known this was coming. In the front row, Cole gave her a thumbs up, his eyes shining with pride. "Thank you, Dr. Albright," Evelyn said, her voice steady again. "I trust our justice system will finally give my parents the peace they deserve." As she finished, police officers were already walking towards Sterling. "Mr. Sterling, please come with us. We have some questions for you." Silence fell over the hall. As he was led away, Sterling looked back at Evelyn, his eyes filled with a venom that made her blood run cold. But in the next instant, Cole was on stage, standing beside her, shielding her from that hateful glare. "You did it," he whispered, his hand warm and firm on the small of her back. The room exploded into thunderous applause. After the summit, they were mobbed by the press. Cole protectively guided her through the chaos to a car his father had waiting. Inside, Evelyn finally let her guard down, her hands shaking uncontrollably. Cole pulled her into his arms. "It's over. It's all over." "No," she shook her head. "This is just the beginning. Sterling has a lot of powerful friends who are all going to be too busy covering their own asses to bother you," Cole said confidently. "And besides, with me and my dad here, no one is ever going to hurt you again." Evelyn looked up at him, a realization dawning on her. The pampered playboy was gone. In his place was a partner, a man who had not only helped her bring down a monster, but had also spent the last few months diligently learning the ropes of her new company. "Thank you," she said, her voice full of emotion. He smiled. "We're a team. No need for thanks." The car pulled up to a beautiful new home they had purchased with a portion of the seed money. Cole's father was waiting in the living room. "You did well," he said, looking at them both. Those 3 words from his father made Cole's eyes burn. It was the first time in his life he had ever received his father's unconditional approval. "Dr. Albright's appearance. That was you?" Evelyn asked. Mark Evans nodded. "I tracked him down. It took some convincing, but justice has a long memory." He looked at his son, his expression softening. "It also made me realize that some justice is long overdue. Like what I owe your mother." Cole froze. "Once Sterling's case is closed," his father continued, "I'm going to personally reopen the investigation into your mother's disappearance. Whatever we find, we owe her that." Cole could only nod, speechless. Evelyn squeezed his hand. 1 year later, Evelyn's new company, Nexus Technologies, went public, its valuation double what Reed Industries had been at its peak. The celebration was held at the city's most glamorous hotel. Evelyn, radiant in a crimson gown, moved through the crowd with grace and confidence. Cole, in a perfectly tailored navy suit, stood by her side, no longer just her husband, but a respected partner in the firm. And now, a few words from the CEO of Nexus Technologies, Ms. Evelyn Reed. Evelyn walked on stage, glowing under the lights. From the audience, Cole raised his glass to her, his heart swelling with pride. "Thank you all for being here," she began. "Nexus wouldn't be here without our incredible team and all of your support. But tonight, there is one person I need to thank above all others." Her eyes found Cole's. "My husband, Cole. In my darkest hour, he was the one who showed me that success isn't everything. When I had almost given up, he risked his life to protect our dream. And when I was consumed by revenge, he was the one who taught me how to look forward." Cole was stunned. The crowd grew quiet, listening intently. Therefore, Evelyn smiled. "I am proud to announce that Nexus Technologies is launching a charitable foundation to provide legal and financial aid to entrepreneurs who have been victims of corporate fraud. And this foundation will be run by its new chairman, Cole Evans." The room erupted in applause. Cole stood there, his vision blurring, a profound sense of belonging washing over him. He had found his place, not just as Evelyn's husband, but as a man of purpose. Later that night, back at home, Cole was still buzzing. "A foundation? Do you know how much work it's going to be?" Evelyn kicked off her heels. "Scared? Are you kidding?" He swept her up into his arms. "I'm thrilled. It's my chance to finally prove I'm more than just Evelyn Reed's husband." She laughed, tapping his shoulder. "Put me down. Your ribs just healed." He set her down gently, but didn't let go. "Have I told you today that I love you?" "You have," she said, pretending to think. "About 3 times, which makes it over 1,000 for the year, I think." "Then let me say it again," he said, his eyes serious. "I love you, Evelyn Reed. Not because you're a CEO, not for your money, but just because you're you." Her eyes welled up. She reached out and caressed his face. The man who was once her biggest headache was now her greatest strength. "I love you too, Cole. Thank you for not giving up on me, even when I was at my most unlovable." He leaned in and kissed her a long, tender kiss that said everything words couldn't. As they finally broke apart, the first light of dawn was streaking across the sky. "Oh," Evelyn remembered something. "My dad's old house is being torn down. Do you want to go see it this weekend?" Cole nodded. "I'd love to. I've never seen where you grew up." "It's just a normal teacher's apartment," she smiled. "I think my high school posters are still on the wall." They collapsed onto the sofa together, wrapped in each other's arms, planning their weekend, their future, stealing kisses in the morning light. The bankruptcy that had nearly destroyed them had become the crucible that forged them. It had stripped them of everything, only to allow them to find what truly mattered, each other and the best versions of themselves.